So today we're gonna be taking a look at another one of those dawning weapons, but this time it's gonna be one of those updated weapons because somehow they did it again. Somehow they managed to make the Glacioclasm just gradually get better every single year, and it happened again. It got better, and now this year's Glacioclasm is the best version of this weapon there's just ever been. So today we're going to be taking a look at the perks that you can get on this weapon, what are the best ones, and the god that you should be going for if you want to make this thing just a beast in the Crucible. But that's not going to be the only thing because it does have a couple pretty useful perks for PvE as well, so we'll definitely hit that as well. Now before we get into any of that, first we got to talk about how to actually get this weapon, and the best way and easiest way that you're going to be able to get this weapon is going to be focusing at Grandma. She's actually able to focus any of the event weapons, so this is going to be the easiest way that you're going to be able to focus that fusion rifle. And if you buy some of the other upgrades that she also has available, you can also get multiple perks in each role to make it a little bit easier to look for the role that you're actually looking for. I would actually say that it's probably better to do these two upgrades right here before you actually do any weapon focusing, just so it's more likely that you actually get a good role and not just waste a bunch of materials or gift boxes on some bad rolls that you're not really going to use. But now let's actually talk about the weapon, and we're not going to spend too much time here because it's the Glacioclasm. Everyone kind of knows the Glacioclasm already. It is a high impact frame fusion rifle, meaning that it's a very slow charging one but very hard hitting fusion rifle that also is known for sniping people at just some ridiculous ranges. Now the Glacioclasm has two different origin traits. It has Dawn Surprise as well as Omolon Fluid Dynamics. And while Omolon Fluid Dynamics is usually the go-to for the Crucible, it really doesn't work in this weapon. Since you usually don't walk around with a full magazine, it doesn't really do anything, so you definitely want to go with Dawning Surprise. And that Dawning gift is going to give you ability energy to all your abilities, as well as a little bit of health. So, even though it doesn't happen on every single kill, it's better than Omolon Fluid Dynamics. And now let's actually move on and talk about the perks that you can actually get on this weapon. We're going to be going one by one. We'll quickly take a look at all of them, but then we'll get a little bit more in depth into the actual good perks because I know that's what you guys are looking for. So let's not waste any more time, let's get into it, and let's start with our very first trade perk. So for the very first trade perk, these are going to be the options that we're going to have. We have Air Trigger, Envy Assassin, Lone Wolf, Overflow, Side Shot, Subsistence, and then lastly Under Pressure. And since we're mostly going to be focusing on the PvP perks, let's start with them. And the best ones that you can get on this slot are going to be Under Pressure, Side Shot, and Lone Wolf. So let's start with Lone Wolf. This one's going to be pretty good. It gives you aim assist, it gives you aim down sight speed, and it even gives you some airborne effectiveness, which I know doesn't really apply too much to the fusion rifle in this case, but the other two, the aim assist and aim down sight speed, definitely make this weapon feel better. So Lone Wolf is going to be a really good choice. It's not going to be the best perk in this slot, but it's definitely pretty solid. Another good one's also going to be Slide Shot. Whenever you slide, you partially reload your magazine, and it also boosts your range and stability. And the extra range and stability are very nice on a fusion rifle. They're basically the two stats that you really want on a fusion, range and stability. So this is fantastic. So Slide Shot by itself is actually going to be pretty strong, and it's also going to work pretty well with pretty much any other perk in the other slot. No matter what you pair with Slide Shot, it's usually going to be pretty good. And then the final perk, and also what I think is the best perk on this column, is going to be Under Pressure, which is going to improve your accuracy and stability as your magazine gets lower. Now, with the lower amount of ammo that we usually have in Crucible nowadays, Under Pressure pretty much just got better, since we're always going to be taking advantage of it. The extra accuracy and stability are very noticeable, and that's without mentioning the synergy that it's got with some of the perks in the second slot, like High Impact Reserves and also Closing Time. So by itself, Under Pressure is going to be really good already. It's a really solid perk, but the thing that really makes it into an S tier perk is just going to be how well it's going to work with some of the perks on the other slot as well, that we'll get to in a little bit. So any of those three perks I think are going to be pretty good, but definitely Under Pressure is the one that I think works out the best. Now when it comes to PvE, you're going to be looking for either Envy Assassin or Overflow. They both are going to do a similar thing, which is just overflow your magazine, allowing you to get more shots out there, especially against some of those bigger targets. And they're also going to pair up really well with a certain perk also in the second slot. So let's move on and actually take a look at those second perks. So these are the perks that we have on the second slot. We have Powerful Weapon, Closing Time, Desperate Measures, Withering Gaze, Control Burst, High Impact Reserves, and lastly Reservoir Burst. And again, let's start with Crucible, and the main two perks that you wanna just keep in mind are gonna be High Impact Reserves as well as Closing Time. And these two are the reason why Under Pressure is just so good. Both of these perks essentially have the same activation requirement as Under Pressure. Now Closing Time is gonna give you increased range, accuracy, and handling as our magazine gets lower. And just like Under Pressure, this thing has a ridiculous uptime in the Crucible. You basically always have it on. So if you have this and Under Pressure, you have increased range, handling, stability, and also just a ton of accuracy so you can snipe people. That is just insane, the amount of like extra stats that you get for just not having any ammo, meaning that you just always walk around with all these extra stats. Now you could also go for High Impact Reserves. This is going to increase your damage towards the end of the magazine, meaning that your final shots are always going to do more damage, just making it easier to secure those kills when you're really going for those long range shots. Most of the time, I don't really think that High Impact Reserves are necessary. I just would rather have like the consistency or something like Closing Time, but it's definitely something that you can also run with Under Pressure and it will be pretty good. And those two are like the best perks you can go for the Crucible. Now for PvE, you're gonna have two different choices as well. You're gonna have Control Burst or also Reservoir Burst. If you wanna go for a bit more ad clear, then Reservoir Burst is gonna be the best one, since whenever you get some kills, it will also do some explosions, dealing some damage around. It is essentially like Firefly buff for fusion rifles. So not only does it give you extra ad clear, but it also gives you some more damage so you can deal with some of those bosses, mini bosses, champions, anything that may require some more shots to kill than just one. But if you're going for strictly boss damage, I would just recommend that you go Control Burst. Every time that you land every shot in your burst, it will increase the damage and also the charge rate. You get a 20% damage buff as well as a 10% increase charge rate. So not only are you going to be able to do some extra damage, but you're also going to be shooting your fusion rifle just overall faster. This is going to be your go-to perk if all you want to do is just damage, especially because as long as you just keep hitting that full burst on the target, you can pretty much just have an unlimited damage boost and always have that 20%, which is not something that you can do with Reservoir Burst. So those are going to be the best perks that you have for this slot. And now let's move on and actually talk about some God rolls. Now for the very first God roll, it's gonna be Under Pressure with Closing Time for Crucible. This is gonna be the best and just most consistent roll that you can get on this fusion rifle. And if you wanna snipe people with your fusion rifle, this is the roll that you wanna go for. And for PvE, I'm gonna recommend that you go Overflow plus Control Burst if all you're trying to do is just do a bunch of damage. Or you could also go with Overflow, Reservoir Burst if you are also planning on like killing some ads. Both of those are gonna be pretty good, but definitely Control Burst is the one I'm gonna lean more towards, since this is just like a slower charging fusion rifle. That extra damage and that extra charge rate, it is definitely what you need. But those are the rolls that I think that you should go for. They're not the only good rolls, there's definitely some other ones that could still work, but are the ones that I think are the best. So let me know what you guys think about them. Let me know what you guys think of just this weapon. Are you going to be grinding for a better one? Do you already have a good one from the last couple of years? I think that this time, I think it's enough of a jump that I am going to go for one of these and try to get one with Closing Time plus Under Pressure, just to see how far I can actually hit people with it, because that's just something I like to do. Getting those long range fusion rifle kills just makes something go off in my brain and makes it feel pretty good. But let me know that all in the comments below, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care, everyone. Have a good rest of your day. Peace.